Welcome to the Explainer. So look, in the tech world, we spend an absolute ton of time and energy just making sure our systems are actually up and running, right? But here's a pretty wild thought. Solving uptime? It's kind of old news. Honestly, the systems mostly work nowadays. The real new frontier, the legitimately tough challenge we're facing today, is figuring out how to actually prove it. And that brings us to a fascinating concept and a specific tool called GlassPane, where transparency itself literally becomes the product. Which brings us straight to the most frustrating dilemma at the heart of all this. How do you prove everything is fine to someone who isn't you? I mean, picture this. You're talking to an auditor or a highly skeptical client, maybe even your board of directors. You really can't just look them dead in the eye and say, hey, trust us, the servers are humming, right? Without credentials, without throwing in a dozen caveats, the whole just trust us routine simply doesn't cut it anymore. And that's a fundamentally different problem than just keeping a server online. But it's exactly the problem that matters most once your infrastructure is actually reliable. And this perfectly highlights a massive paradigm shift. Think about the traditional old ops posture. It's almost entirely inward-facing, built to answer one super basic question for the internal team. Is it up? But GlassPane, it completely flips it on its head. It takes the exact same data, but points it entirely outward. So it's no longer just about uptime, it's about what we're calling demonstrable trust. It's literally about taking the machine, turning it inside out, and letting the skeptics see it for themselves.
So let's dive into Section 1, Transparency as the Product. We're talking about reframing trust from a pure cost into a real, tangible asset. The actual business value of making this shift is absolutely massive, and it all boils down to that classic rule, show, don't tell. Normally, proving your reliability means what? Generating some static, backward-looking PDF report every month, or worse, jumping on one of those agonizing status calls. But put yourself in the shoes of a managed service provider today. If your clients can literally just pull up a screen and see that things are healthy in real time, well, you're going to spend way less time reassuring them and a heck of a lot more time actually selling and growing your business. Same goes for an enterprise dealing with an auditor. Hand them a read-only live view of your systems, and suddenly you only have to answer the question, how do I know, exactly one time instead of, 40 times. By showing instead of telling, proving your reliability transforms into a hugely valuable asset.
Moving right along to Section 2, one dataset, three views. This is really the signature design move here. So the core concept at play here is something called edit by subtraction. Basically, GlassPane takes the exact same underlying infrastructure data, but, and here's the magic trick, it represents itself depending on whoever happens to be looking at it. The discipline here isn't about just blasting everyone with every single data point imaginable. No, it's about showing each person only what they need to actually trust the picture. This role-aware lens isn't just some neat UI trick, it's a deliberate core product feature. And this is so important to grasp. An executive's view isn't just a dumbed-down version of the engineering dashboard. Not at all. It's the absolute, precise, right subset of data curated specifically for that audience. To really see how this works in practice, let's look at how three totally different roles derive entirely different value from the exact same infrastructure. Take the executive. They log in and they want to see commitments. Are we meeting our SLAs? What is this whole thing costing us? Now, the business manager looks at that very same data set, but they see clients and team dynamics. They're asking, who's healthy right now? Who needs our attention? And then, of course, the engineer looks at it and sees the raw technical truth, latency metrics, active incidents, queue depth, the whole shebang. It's the exact same data, but with three distinct framings. You get this one smart role-aware lens over a single data set, which is vastly better than dealing with three disconnected, messy, separate dashboards. All right, on to Section 3, layering trust and honesty. Let's talk about the architecture of accountability. Listen, trust doesn't just happen magically out of thin air, right? It literally has to be systematically constructed if it's going to mean anything at all. It's a compounding process, built step by step. Step 1, obviously, you have to actually trust the data itself. But we live in a world where AI is increasingly the thing that's interpreting all that data for us, which leads straight into Step 2. You have to trust the AI model that's reading it. And this is exactly why model transparency, knowing exactly which AI said what and why it said it, is a non-negotiable, mandatory layer of the product. It cannot be some hidden black box. Only when those first two steps are totally rock solid can you confidently move to Step 3. That's where you safely hand that trust outward, through scoped, expiring views, directly to your clients or your auditors. Make no mistake, every single layer is completely dependent on the credibility of the one sitting right beneath it. Now, consider this thought for a second. A transparency tool that hides its own failures would quietly contradict its entire reason for existing. I mean, think about it. The absolutely crucial point here is radical candor. What actually happens when something breaks? Most monitors out there just want to perpetually show you a fake green light, just to keep everyone calm and happy. But GlassPane does something different. It makes the honest move. It explicitly surfaces its own gaps and failures. A monitor that's brave enough to stand up and say, hey, I am missing data right now, is infinitely more trustworthy than one that's always pretending everything is just absolutely perfect. That instinct to just be dead honest about failure is basically the entire product in miniature.
And they actually back up that honesty structurally, which I love. GlassPane is AGPL 3.0 open source, it's fully self-hostable, the AI layer is totally provider agnostic, and this is huge, it has an option to run a local AI model, so your highly sensitive telemetry never even has to leave your network. It's a funny irony when you think about it. Asking someone to just trust us when you're selling a transparency tool is honestly a complete joke. A product that's out here promising transparency absolutely must let you verify it. You need to be able to see the open source code, and you need the option to keep your data local. It's not just some nice ideology we're talking about here, it's genuinely the only valid answer.
Okay, let's pivot to section 4, the reality check. Time to look at the honest bear and bull cases. Just to be completely objective here, we've got to look at the honest bear case and tackle the flaws head-on. First up, GlassPane right now is a demo. It's an MVP running on illustrative mocked data. So while it demonstrates the idea beautifully, it's definitely not a battle-tested production tool yet. Second, while transparency as product is an incredibly brilliant framing, the observability market is already insanely crowded. You gotta wonder, will buyers really pay for this as a totally distinct tool, or are they just gonna expect it as a built-in feature for the tools they already own? And third, and this is perhaps the most fascinating caveat of all, is the AI recursion risk. Imagine wrapping an AI summary in a highly trusted, gorgeously designed interface, but then that AI hallucinates an incorrect summary with total absolute confidence. That is incredibly dangerous. Sure, model transparency helps mitigate this, but the thing explaining the data has to be accountable itself. And man, that is a notoriously hard problem to solve.
But even with those very real caveats, the bull case here is just incredibly sharp. The core triumph of GlassPane is how it successfully reframes a basic, everyday commodity, the humble dashboard, into a seriously high-value asset, provable trust that you can confidently hand straight to an outsider. It takes the hard, honest road by actually surfacing its own failures, and it stays open and local so you can verify literally every claim it makes. Even though it's just an early demo right now, the fundamental bet it's making is absolutely one to watch.
Which brings us to one final, somewhat provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. As our systems become pretty much completely reliable, and as AI increasingly takes over the heavy lifting of interpreting our data, the truly scarce resource isn't going to be uptime anymore. It's going to be trust. So I want you to take a look at your own infrastructure and really ask yourself, in an AI-interpreted world, are you ready to make demonstrable trust your most valuable asset? Thanks so much for hanging out with me to explore this fascinating shift, and I highly encourage you to think about how transparency could become a legitimate product in your own day-to-day work.